Welcome to TM Radio Broadcasting. My name is Frank Allen. We are live from Boston, Massachusetts. Today's date is Friday, September the 8th, 2023. If you'd like to call in and listen, dial +1 518 801 1318. If you'd like to call in with a question, dial +1 617 987 8603. Once again, if you have a question, dial +1 617 987 8603. Tonight, we have a gentleman from the tech side of the community, and he is no stranger. I would like to welcome David Ruble, inventor of the Cybershield. Hello, David. You want to say a few words?
Hey, glad to be here again. Thanks for having me back. It's been too long, and I've missed being able to talk to you.
Yeah, we can't let it go this long ever again because
No,
it's an experience having you on because you have so much valuable information that you share. Now, the first thing I'd like to do is I would like to run down some questions, and then I'm just going to turn you loose. How's that sound?
that sounds perfect. Let's catch up first and then get right down to business.
Okay, you have a gentleman in Europe who is claiming your device as his own. Can you elaborate for our listening audience the circumstances that led up to this
Sure.
unfortunate, untenable situation? Go ahead, Dave.
Sure. So just to give a really quick background and summary of what's going on here. There's an individual who was involved in some early testing of the Cybershield when we were in our beta phase, and the end result is the person felt that because they were a tester that they were entitled to the equipment and the software and any kind of research and intellectual property surrounding it, which unfortunately isn't the case, especially not for the country which they reside in as well. Intellectual property laws are very much in effect in that country. The person believed that there's a rule that states that they are somehow entitled to it or have rights to it, as if I was an employee or a contractor, but I was not. I was neither. I just volunteered to fill a leadership role in leading some different meetings for a short time, and some of the people involved in that decided to be some testers. That was it. Now, we had tried to do some negotiations at one point about potentially partnering up to sell the equipment and get it manufactured. However, we never had any, legal agreements, legal arrangements, anything like that. As far as from a legal standpoint, all anyone involved ever was a tester. Definitely nothing to legally entitle anybody to my own intellectual property. That's kind of the gist of what we're looking at right now. It not wouldn't necessarily be a problem to me if people were actually helping. Unfortunately, the people tied to this have been known to scam some people in the past. There's some really unfortunate circumstances for some people. Some people lost a lot of money, and there's no recourse for them. I don't want to get into all those politics too much. I think there's other people that probably would know more about that than me. Essentially, they've tried to come up with a fake version of my product, and they're calling it a cyber defender. Is from what I'm seeing. If you see the construction of it, it's clearly a knockoff. You're gonna know it's a knockoff. I've seen several problems with it already. So here's the issue. I'm all for people trying to help out, but I don't feel that there's help here because they're taking the stolen approach versus any kind of business arrangement to work with me properly and be able to actually gain rights to use any of my intellectual property. So what's most concerning is that what they're using and even advertising is all the old, outdated test module functions from the beta test. We have far, far surpassed everything that was done in the beta now. We have a multitude of different modules and functions nowadays. We have touchscreen interface with all the different buttons you can press to select your different modes, customize your different settings on the unit. We're so much more advanced than it was. And what I'm concerned about is that what they're using now is kind of broken. It's not going to function. It's not going to do what people expect it to do. These people don't know what they're doing. They didn't have the proper resources for it. They don't understand the research that goes into it. My biggest concern here that I would like to make people aware of in this matter is, please, if you have interest in the Cyber Shield, I want people to be aware that there's a knockoff being advertised for sale right now. If one of
Blatantly.
you, blatantly, yes, if one of you happens to accidentally purchase one of these knockoff units and the equipment doesn't function for you, my understanding is that they don't have a refund policy, which I do. I feel that that's important to be able to at least offer some kind of assurance and guarantee to people. And I had a few refunds. There's a few people that didn't feel that it was the thing for them, and they got their money back. Nobody's been scammed in this, and
That's a
so
big thing right there. If
right,
you buy
right.
a new car and you drive it off the lot and you use it for 30 days, there's no bringing it back.
Yeah, but
That's
if
very good.
within that time frame, you should be able to take it back. If you know after a few weeks, hey, this isn't for me, you should be able, like anywhere else that you buy a legitimate product from, you should be able to return it within a reasonable return window. And we've done that. We have a 30-day return window. We do charge a small restocking fee, which is negligible overall as far as the entire purchase goes. Past that, it gets a little more complicated past that 30-day window, but we offer a guarantee within that 30-day window. And it's a 15% fee that we charge if you want to return it again. And we just lower the price too. So that makes it even easier. We can talk about that in a moment. But before I get too sidetracked, the most important part of all this is if somebody ends up buying a piece of equipment from these people and it doesn't function and they can't return it and they can't get their money back, please reach out to me or please reach out to anybody that owns a Cyber Shield, yeah, so you can get in contact with me. And we would love to try to work with you to try to inspect your equipment if we need to and see if it's up to spec or not and what it might take to actually make it function. So my hope is that what's in it, whatever state they've left it in, that we could actually be able to repair it for you, buy your screen for you and everything else, and make it what it is actually supposed to be, so you don't get stuck with an expensive piece of hardware that isn't going to help you. So if anybody knows anybody that ends up with one of these knockoffs, don't think all hope is lost. Reach out to us. We want to do what we can to try to help you make this work. Nobody should have to spend that kind of money and buy something with no guarantees, and it won't end up helping them. It's just going to make your situation worse, that you're going to be frustrated and out the money. We have what we believe could be some solutions for you if this happens. So please reach out if this happens.
Okay, I have a question for you. Does this gentleman, does he know how to code? Is he educated in this
No,
area?
he does not himself. So he tells some lies about what he did for a living. I actually just heard the truth about what he really did for a living, and actually everything all of a sudden made sense to me at that point. I won't get into details that far. That's not what I'm here for. the person is not knowledgeable in computers, software, or technology even a little bit. So that's problematic. Now, he is good at finding some people willing to help that are at least semi knowledgeable at times. In some of my ordeals trying to work with him and some engineers before, I mean, that was a bad deal with him trying to work with anything. But he did find some programmers in the past, and he actually lost them because they knew something was wrong. They felt something was suspicious and funny about what was happening, and they knew it was all my work. He tried to assemble a team behind my back the first time around that failed on him, and these people actually came to me and told me, and withdrawing from wanting to do anything with him when they realized what was happening. These people still there's issues. You need more than just a guy who can build hardware. You need more than just a guy who can do software. You also need somebody who understands the fundamental research behind what goes into the equipment, how we're making the equipment operate, and under what principles and under what science we're applying. At the end of the day, it requires somebody quite knowledgeable in neuroscience. And I'm not talking about somebody who can just necessarily read a few paragraphs in a book and think that they can do something with that. It requires a little bit of knowledge to understand what kind of research needs to be applied programmatically in the hardware. So it's a big undertaking, and I would not believe for a second that they would have those resources, or else I probably would have been able to speak to the people myself if they were that knowledgeable. And I would actually love to meet other individuals that knowledgeable and love to even work with them, just because it matters when people understand what they're doing, can understand how to research, and especially can understand how to apply the knowledge. I know everybody's out trying to help out and trying to do their part. There's a lot of people, and a lot of people are, they're doing the best they can. They're doing great jobs at it. What we need for this type of equipment is we need people beyond the normal. We need exceptional resources to be able to work with this equipment. And that is where I'm confident they don't have those resources.
I
The
understand.
state the state of what the state of what they're advertising, and the fact that it is all the criteria of the beta test, means that there's been no advancements in the technology at all since the beta phase as far as on their end, and that's a bad place to be. So that means they are over 2 years behind us at a minimum, and that's not good to be trying to market that to people.
Yeah, along those lines, while I was in Virginia reviewing your product with your customer, I noticed that she was receiving a firmware update at that moment. And I guess that's not going to be happening with the gentleman in Europe. Well, that's.
No, it won't. And the biggest reason why is because this person isn't even going to talk to me anymore. I mean, it's a weird area to think that somebody would need help who has tried to scam you, and scammed other people. And there's a piece of me that if that person's intent was that they wanted my help to help protect them from what's happening, that's a hard thing to say no to. At the same time, I would have to take a lot of precaution to make sure that they couldn't do anything to try to steal again. I wouldn't say that I would have him cut off. I would have to take extraordinary measures to make sure that there was no attempt for that to happen again. That's really the gist of it. Here's the thing about being a leader. When I met this guy in the first place, he wanted me to be a leader. So I would like him, if that person can hear, and just for anybody else to understand what it means to be a leader. What it means to be a leader is we have to learn to do one of the most difficult things that somebody can have to do in their life, and that's to put aside our personal emotions to make a logical and proper decision to do what's right. With that being said, if that person could come to me in a civil way because they actually needed help and they weren't trying to do anything malicious with it, I would honestly find a way to work with that person, because if somebody is being tortured, how are you going to say, no, I can't help you? And especially as a leader, doubly, that would be one of the most difficult things, and I think it would be wrong for somebody who is a leader to make a decision like that. I do have personal emotions and feelings that would be invested into that. I also have ones as a leader, so that would be my answer to him. And I'm actually glad you asked that so I could actually address that. The answer is yes, I would help him. It would have to be very restrictive how I would do it, because I obviously have concerns in my attempts to do the right thing and help somebody who needs help. I would have concerns that they would still try to take advantage of that. That's a terrible thing to think about in this community. People talk about perps. Okay, I don't like using that word. We'll use the lingo that everybody uses. People talk about perps. These perps are attacking them. They're doing all these terrible things to them. Why are they doing it? For a lot of people, the answer is because they're making money off of you. That is the answer that you hear more often than not. When you are scamming the community and taking advantage of people, that you have become that person. You are everything that everybody says is out there, and you are doing to them what they say is being done to them. You've taken something and you've made it real in doing that. And that is a terrible thing, that you play on somebody's fears and psychological damage. You play on that, you instill even more, and then you monetarily take advantage of them just to gain some profits. That to me is just horrible. People don't need somebody profiting off of them right now. They need somebody helping them. It's one of the reasons even we dropped the price of the Shield down to 2,900 right now. Shipped with, that's next day air insured. We were doing it. It was 3,600 before. I've been trying to do what I can to work on some advanced manufacturing and try to bring costs down and try to make this cheaper. I've ran into problems, especially because of people like this who are being scammy and trying to do these knockoffs and trying to create problems that prevent progression that's needed to achieve these things. I haven't succeeded at doing all of the things that I wanted to yet. I decided that what I could do is just drop price down anyway. It makes it a little more difficult in moving forward with operations and everything, but you know what? We're reaching some great points in the development of this equipment. We're achieving more and more in what we're being able to protect from. I know you're going to ask me later, so I'm not going to touch on it. V2K is one of the areas we're making advancements in. We got great news there to talk about later. Really, at the end of the day, it's just about trying to get this equipment into the hands of people who it's going to help. If I can cut the costs of it at the expense of, slowing down my plans to try to do other things, do custom manufacturing and everything else. But, if it slows it down a little, but it still gets into the hands of more people, you know what? Let's do it. And that's what we've done here.
Right,
I'm going to,
and
that's the path I'm going to continue on.
you have a very interesting situation. You will sell the unit and you will update hardware. Am I correct? I know you update the software, but at one point you were updating hardware.
Yes, yes. So if we make a hardware change, then we will actually come back, and part of the price that you've paid has factored in that we may need to come and do an actual hardware upgrade to the system at some point. I want it to be taken care of. we wouldn't necessarily have to charge you anything for it. So like some of those one of the examples of that was the addition of the touch screens to the units. Originally, when they were in the beta phase, the unit didn't have a screen. It didn't really have any kind of input, didn't have any buttons or anything. It was very simple in operation, and we made different changes where we added a button that used to be the initial level of control. Then we added a touch screen, but it was still button driven, and the screen allowed you to see what was actually happening and allowed you to cycle through more modes as we built and added more modes into its operations. We're to the point now where it actually has a touch screen interface. You've got your different buttons and everything to select your different modes of operation, configure your settings, everything else. Users that got some of those initial units, we were able to turn around then, upgrade some of their equipment and give them the screens, things like that. There is some changes right now that some people have kind of paid for on their own with our production guy out in California. But that's kind of I just want to point that out because I love to be transparent about everything. I don't want to say that you wouldn't necessarily not pay for everything if we change something, but where it's kind of some experimental changes so far seem to be going really well, where he's doing things like adding additional thermal tape and stuff like that to the amplifiers and the equipment, and just things to try to help protect the longevity of the equipment. When we make a complete hardware standard change, then in all likelihood, I'm probably just going to be asking you for an address of where I can ship the hardware, or if we have to make further accommodations to get it updated, then we'll kind of go from there. But yes, that does happen. As far as software goes, like you mentioned, we're always updating software. We're making new changes all the time, upgrading modules, adding new modules, new features. Some people get updates a few times a week, and some people get updates every few months. So it kind of depends on the person's targeting. There's always going to be new software for you coming out. It's always getting better all the time. The V2K stuff is one of the big ones here lately. We're making really good progress, and some of the new changes to the system actually are helping in that users are actually able to calibrate their modes specifically to them. Before, I kind of used to dial it all in myself. I used to adjust the settings for them, try to work with them to see what worked out best for them, and try to find kind of a happy middle ground in the operation of everything. But now we're opening up more and more, and even more to come, where they can dial in all these settings. And as a result of it, the V, well, I'll wait for you to ask. But as a result of it, it's making things even better, and we're learning even more through the end users being able to customize the equipment more towards their self. And they're figuring out for us what settings are actually breaking different functions that are being performed so that we can enhance the different modes and configuration options that we start to turn these things into push button operations to start breaking everything. You'll hit a button and just bam, instantly what you were dealing with gets wiped out. It's a really amazing time right now, and these are features, unfortunately, in the knockoff version. You're not going to see it in this. From what I saw, there isn't even an interface to it that I could see. I could be wrong on that, but I don't see any kind of connection for that. I didn't see any kind of information for it. I don't see any way to change any of its operations. It's sad where they're at and what they're trying to do. It's awesome where we are.
Very good. Have you entertained the thought of contracting a patent attorney?
If it comes down to it, I'm going to have to. Right now, there is a report filed in Warsaw, Poland, right now for theft of intellectual property. The country where things are originating from follows the international standards, so there is a legal process for this. At the end of the day, it's not going to be successful. My biggest concern, though, is functionality of what's being sold to people. Without knowing that, the only thing I can do is report it. It's my property. They can't, intellectual property covers a lot of things. It does cover my research that went into it that wasn't given to them. It does cover my software itself, which has clearly been taken. Some of the functions that they actually advertise are functions I built into the software myself. They do not exist out there in the wild. These were custom changes made by me. Nobody else has these changes. Nobody's
I never
hardware
understood
should
this,
be able to
Frank.
perform some of those
I
functions,
never
like the
understood
pulse
this.
modulation, for example. And
Hold
then there's
on,
some phase adjust. There's some phase adjustment in there too. These are
David.
clear signs of theft.
David, we have a caller. Go ahead, Jen.
Hello?
Hello. Go
Hey,
ahead.
Jen.
Hi, hi. David, it's good to hear you again. I just got in the door. I had a question. I don't know if you have the answer, but I come from a targeted family, so to speak. Nothing so horrible that would be obvious. But I had a brother who died from an aneurysm, and I discovered some complications in his living situation with his house partner, who has all the earmarks of somebody who gang stalks. And I know that aneurysms can be created over very long periods of time. And do you know of any research that I could look up on that?
So, okay. Um, I right off the top of my head, I can't say specifically, but yes,
Yeah,
you're right. This is stuff that I've heard before out of the research. One thing to be clear about to people, there is real research out here. There is a lot of information on the psychology and the technology used, admissions that it exists,
yeah,
that the stuff is real
yeah,
and that it works, and that is tied into it. There's a guy that I work with, and he does some research for me, and he does his own research as well, and I help him write out some of his different programs that he can perform his research with. I
yeah,
think he would be the one that would be better to maybe point out some of that research to you. And I would love to be able
yeah.
to put you into contact with him. And I think he'd probably be glad to speak to you about it. He's a doctor, he's a psychologist, and he also has a master's in sociology from NYU. He's a very, very smart individual, and we have him, working on solutions for this stuff as well. He is the guy that I think would be able to point you in the direction of some specific research showing that they can perform, that kind of attack on somebody, that they can use this kind of
Uh,
technology to create aneurysms, strokes, blood clots, things like that. Yes, that stuff is very real. It is doable. I know what you want is credible, verifiable information. I'm thinking, Frank, if you have some way, what would be the best way for me to try to get some information forwarded to her?
She has actually been a friend, a TI. We have written to each other, so there will not be a problem.
Okay, I want to. Okay, so I'll get you that information to pass on to her, and I want to say something else about this resource that we have on board as well. He is also available to people if you need some kind of therapy session or counseling. What we have here for you is a psychologist, and again, he's also has a master's in sociology. This is somebody who is targeted themselves. They understand everything that you're going through. Not everybody maybe needs that kind of resource. Some people have been broken pretty badly, and they might need a professional resource like that to be able to talk to in a therapeutic setting who is actually going to believe them and know what they're talking about. We have somebody for that now. He's a really great guy. I would like to work with Frank here, I think, too, to get his information. Maybe he can send it out for everybody in a newsletter, and so that they know we have a resource available to people, because I know how important that can be. A lot of people don't necessarily feel like they have somewhere to go because nobody really understands or is trained to know what's going on and how to even begin to deal with it. So this is one of the big steps here that we're making in progression of trying to get help for the community.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it would probably be good for my file because, you know, I've been through a lot. You know, my harassment started in 1995. So it'd probably be good for me to get a hold of this man and
Sure.
have a go at it, and then kind of point me in the right direction. Um, I appreciate your suggestion. I really kind of need to do it for myself as
Yeah,
well as
yeah. Let's do that. Let me
for my
get you in
family.
contact with him, and at least initially to get your questions out there as far as if he can help you find some of the specific research papers, because he reads a lot of he's went out and read a lot of the work. So I think he's the one that can help with that. And yeah, if you want to talk about anything else, you can. We're gonna make him available to anybody who would potentially need a resource like that to be available. This is about helping people.
Yes, and that will be available if you get it to me in time in the Sunday newsletter.
I'll have it to
Oh,
you for the Sunday newsletter, Frank.
Okay, fantastic.
all righty. All right, Dave, thanks a lot. I'm glad you're out there.
Yep,
Okay,
yep. Thanks for calling in, Jen.
talk to you later,
All
Jen.
right.
Bye.
Okay.
Okay, Jen has been in the community for years, and she has always written to the foundation. She has a very good way of getting her point across, what she actually needs. So that's fantastic that you will
Yeah,
reach out.
great, great. And that was a great way too to introduce that we have this guy available for people, and I think that's a huge step.
Yes, we have a commercial that it's running a little late, but I think we can fit it in.
If you are interested in natural alternative health and nutrition, look no further than Dr. Janet Starhall, a leading expert in the field with over 25 years of experience. After healing herself from a near-fatal disease caused by aspartame, Dr. Hall has dedicated her work to helping others take control of their health and wellness through simple nutrition strategies and natural detoxification. Join Dr. Hall's private online community at janethull.com, JANETHULL.com, and gain access to her hair analysis program, her natural detoxification videos, her pH balance program, healthy recipes, a weekly live Q&A session, and special guest interviews. Receive support from a thriving community of like-minded individuals who share your passion for holistic health. Join her private online community today, where you can learn how to improve your health and wellness through natural, holistic practices.
Are you a targeted individual looking for support and connection? Look no further than TIEvents.org, the ultimate event site for targeted individuals worldwide. Discover a wide range of upcoming events, from conferences and meetups to rallies and fundraisers. Connect with like-minded individuals, participate in informative conference calls, and explore a wealth of resources. Visit TIEvents.org today and join a thriving community of targeted individuals. Together, we can make a difference. TIEvents.org, empowering targeted individuals worldwide.
Okay, and thank you very much. We have two great people there. We have Tranquility with TI Events, and we have Dr. Janet Starr Hull, who's a PhD. Together, they make a very wonderful pair in addition to the community.
I would agree. I love resources who have credentials like that. And then again, anybody who's out there honestly trying to help people, I'm gonna get along great with them. That's why I get along so well with you. We have personal conversations and stuff at times. So, I know you a little I know you at a deep enough level that you are somebody who really cares about what's happening. You really want to do something to help. You're very knowledgeable too. You're just a little. I think it almost feels a little deceptive how knowledgeable you are because you're so much more knowledgeable than it would seem just at first appearance.
Okay, thank you very much, David. I appreciate that. I have said for quite some time that the term intellectual property should be redefined to include information that is within your head. This is what is happening. They are getting all of your ideas. And David, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that actually your Cybershield isn't already in production somewhere else. I really, it upsets me the access at which they have. So
Right. And, I think part of that's just a testament to the complexity that's needed in the solution. It's everything that is being done to attack people is simple in operation. It's simple in theory. The research is simple. Complexity of it all comes in the application, in the advancement of the hardware that you're going to be using with it. Even though I say it may be simple, it's simple to me. I'm knowledgeable in a lot of the different areas. The actual application of a full solution isn't simple. It requires a lot of knowledge. It requires a lot of experience. It's a difficult thing. Sorry, I got distracted for a second there. I was kind of lost my train of thought for a moment. I apologize. But
David,
yeah, the
did you get my message?
yep.
Okay, thank you.
At the okay, hold on. All right. I've lost my full train of thought right now though. So, um, if you want, maybe we can jump into the next question and just keep it rolling. There's a lot of interesting things going on here in the community lately, I guess, when we're talking about helping people. So we have all this stuff going on out in Europe. They're trying to create this knockoff here. It's unfortunate. It does involve intellectual property. It does involve theft of copyright software. Derivatives are covered. It means you can't take somebody's software, look at it, and then try to rewrite it and make it yours. That doesn't work just as much as if you'd like to make your own copy of the Harry Potter series and try to sell it for yourself and make a bunch of money thinking you can change a few words around or something. Derivatives are still covered under copyright. There has to be proper legal qualifications that are going to distinguish when something is considered a derivative or not. Just as far as along the lines of some of that intellectual property stuff goes, it's interesting how much actually is covered, even though, like Frank mentioned, more could be covered. There's some other kind of stuff going on too with some people saying some false things in the community right now. I thought it would probably be worth mentioning that too. Frank and I talked about it earlier. I don't like to necessarily name names, but I just like people to be aware that if you see something like this, and it raises your hackles a little bit, it's probably for good reason. You should always question everything. You should always ask as many questions as you can. Try to verify and validate that information, especially with others. Make sure you're talking to credible people. Some other things we got going on actually are some inflammatory and quite false statements about the shield itself. There's somebody out claiming that they actually log and acquire brain data and that the data is being sent off to Dr. James Giordano in the Department of Defense. And it's actually kind of funny because we planned for that scenario that somebody may want to try to accuse something like of that from happening.
And
So
you,
we took precautions.
and
We,
you
we
wish.
actually took precautions. And what those precautions were, and it's kind of funny, is there's no hardware in the shield that is going to record anything happening, not even a microphone. Because there's no microphone in this equipment, there's no camera, and there definitely is not any kind of EEG sensors or any kind of health sensors or anything like that for that matter that is going to log any kind of medical data of yours, especially without your permission and especially not without a HIPAA release, because that's extremely, extremely important when we're talking about generating medical data. The biggest point to drive home about in all of that is that there is no hardware in there capable of logging anything that is going on external to that equipment outside of our software updates. So it does have a Wi-Fi connection, it's got a LAN connection. We disable the Bluetooth now. We delete the device drivers so that the hardware won't even function. The only thing your Wi-Fi is going to do or the LAN cable is going to do is give you a connection to the internet. It's not gonna, the Wi-Fi in a Raspberry Pi is not going to steal your information out of your brain. I mean, that's ridiculous. And there's no hardware we put in here that's going to take any kind of telemetry or nothing. The equipment has zero environmental awareness around it. It doesn't even know what the temperature of your room is.
David,
I can tell you what the temperature of the processor is, but I can't tell you anything more than that. So that's just to kind of dispel some of that.
David, I had a question and it totally slipped my mind, but I have another one here. What has the overall response been to Cybershield from those who have purchased it?
Our users are generally quite happy that they have their equipment. Again, I love being transparent. Does it protect from everything? No. So, we work with the users. We're trying to make it better all the time. The general consensus is that users are very, very happy with their equipment. The majority of them. We've had a few returns. Again, thankfully, we got a return policy if people feel this isn't their solution. The percentage of returns are very small. We've only ever had to process a couple returns. The majority of users, over 95% of them, retain their equipment and continue to get updates for their equipment. And sometimes somebody accidentally breaks something and they get them repaired. We actually have a lot of repeat buyers. So several Shield owners actually own two Shields. And there's some other ones who have a second order in right now. We even have one who's talking about getting a third. They love their equipment. It helps some people so immensely, it blows your mind. Some of the users who maybe weren't attacked as badly as others, they they went from having a difficult time living their life and doing things to being able to go back to work, being able to work every day effectively and efficiently. We had a young guy even who was able to start. He was able to get a job again, start playing video games again. He went out and got a girlfriend. I mean, that's just awesome, especially when you hear of somebody so young being attacked, and to be able to give them, their normal life back. That's a powerful thing. We're able to protect from some of the worst things, even where people who would have been or felt suicidal no longer feel suicidal anymore. Some of the people dealing with some extreme post-traumatic stress disorder. We have anti-PTSD mode that helps a lot for some of those. One guy in particular, he's an ex-military guy, and that's one of the primary reasons he actually even bought it, was to help him with treating his PTSD. At the end of the day, the users that have these shields, if you ask them if they would give it up, I'm not sure that you'd find anybody that say yes.
Well, I think it. I happened to see the inert components, and I looked at some of the names, and I noticed that just a cursory examination showed me that there were some very high end items in there. So I was very impressed. Very impressed. Unf-
Yeah, it's not the cheapest thing in the world to make. I would, I want to do I still want to do things to drive the cost down, but we spend a little bit of money making this, and we have to do our own custom fabrications and different things for it. So yeah, I mean, this definitely isn't some cheap thing that somebody bought off Amazon and dressed it up fancy and repackaged it as a new product or anything like that. This is a complex device that had been built up over time through a lot of work and a lot of research and effort to find out, what it was going to take to achieve the results that we've been able to obtain. And you're right. It's not a simple piece of equipment.
okay, what I'm going to say is that if the further you move into the V2K area, people are just going to flip, and you're going to have so many orders from all over the world that it's just going to blow your mind because there are so
Oh,
many, including
right.
myself.
And that's an area right there that I know you wanted me to touch on, and I kind of held back a little bit on it. So that's some of the exciting news that I have to share. We are making breakthroughs in the V2K. I just had a user. She's ready for her next update now tonight. She actually she reported 2 entire days of successfully blocking and mitigating the V2K. And that's a huge achievement. In the past, we've been able to do things to block V2K out for short bursts at times, anywhere from a few minutes up to a few hours at most. But then, after that, it just kind of really might not function as great anymore. We're making, with the user's abilities now, to start to customize and tailor the operation specifically towards them. We have Shield users who are out here experimenting with the equipment to find optimal settings with the new modules. We have like our quad heterodyne module, and we have a new V2K module as well, and we have some V2K configuration settings. And these settings are starting to knock people's V2K out and starting to give them, it's still temporary relief, but the amount of time that it's able to knock the V2K out is becoming longer and longer. So this 2 day streak that one of the users had is absolutely phenomenal. These kind of changes, this progress is actually coming from the community itself. So Shield users are providing feedback and configuration information that's helping us to advance this. So that's a big area right now that is being worked in because of the feedback we're getting. We're going to be opening up even more customization in the operations of the equipment so that we can be able to refine this even more. And, someday we want to be able to have a button and you press it on there and there's just no more. So, that's the goals, and we're making great progress towards it. So I'm really happy to be able to announce that we are successfully knocking it out for people. And we got to keep on top of updates, but we're refining it all the time. It's getting better, and it's great when you can do exactly that. Walk over. You're having a hard time with B2K. You walk over, and we have buttons that you can press now, and it goes by. It goes bye bye. How long it lasts before we have to change any settings on it, that's what we're extending out right now. But we actually can knock it out.
That's fantastic. I am definitely going to have to try one of these things. I just
Oh,
have
we
to.
we can do we can work that out. We can work something out on that too. I'm surprised. I figured you'd want to ask someday when you're ready, and whenever you are, we'll talk about it. We'll get something figured out for you.
Okay, that's fantastic. Coming up at the top of the hour, or actually, pardon me, the bottom of the hour, I was just curious if there's anything you'd like to say for a closing statement for our listening audience, because we're going to have to do this again. You know that. You haven't even
Yep, yep.
probably touched anything yet.
Right, because there's so much more we could talk about, and we are going to do this again soon. I mean, when you say do a closing statement, I mean, how much time do we got left here, Frank?
Oh, about 3 minutes. It's basically just to
Oh,
you know
did I lose you there again?
yeah, just for a second.
15 more. Okay. Um, the biggest thing, again, the biggest thing that I want to point out to people, just in some of my experiences and what I've had to go through to develop this hardware for you guys to do the research, work on the software, and keep making this better. There's people who want to help in the community, and there's people who don't. There's people who want to take advantage of you. The most important thing that, again, I want people to be able to remember is you question a lot of things in your targeting. You question a lot of what is happening, why is this going on, how is this being done. But sometimes we don't question each other enough until it's too late. It doesn't mean we have to be scared of every person out there and to feel like, oh, anybody could be out to get us. It's not true. There's good guys and bad guys everywhere and in everything, in every walk of life, at every level. I just want to make sure that people remember, use common sense when you interact with somebody. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And make sure, do a little questioning of this person. How long have they been involved in what they're doing? What is it they do? Who are some of the people that they've worked with? Don't necessarily get that information from them. Ask the community yourself. Hey, who knows these people? Are they legit? Do your due diligence for yourself. Don't trust some people blindly just because they seem like just because they have the right titles or something on their profile, or they wrote the right things on an online profile. Look, you can write anything you want. I could tell you that I have a degree from every single Ivy League college in the country, and it doesn't make it true, but I could put it on a profile somewhere. Question these things. It's okay to question somebody's credentials. It's okay to ask around, and if you're going to spend money, definitely do your due diligence and homework. There are people out here trying to take advantage of everybody. They're even trying to take advantage of what I do for you. Be safe out there. That's the most important thing. People have enough real things to worry about, and they don't need people adding more to it. It's really sad that this is kind of what it's come to in the community, but People have a lot of fears that can be played on. A big part of this program is about psychology. Psychology is the most dangerous weapon that's used against you. In other people who would take advantage of you, they know and understand the psychological damage that's been inflicted upon you and being inflicted upon you. They know what that damage is, especially if they can feed that damage into you by instilling fears of what you should be afraid of and then trying to turn around and capitalize on it and take advantage of you for that. There's people who are really doing something good for the community out there, and there's people that aren't. So, if anything, I just would like to raise the awareness of the fact that there's these individuals out there. I don't like to name names. I could. These people like to name names. I don't have to. I don't have to stoop to that level. Just to try to fire anything directly back. Instead, I just, question everything. Question me if you want. Question the heck out of me. Send me an email. Ask for a phone call. Beat me up on it if you want. To try to destroy me on anything you want, just as long as, at the end, if it will help you to learn something, or maybe you want some help from me or somebody I know, hey, I'll do whatever it takes. I expect that from people. I expect you to do your due diligence, do your homework.
Okay.
But,
Thank you very much, David. I can't thank you enough for joining me here this evening. Right now, oh, I'd like to thank my listening audience too. But right now,
right.
I'd like to say good night from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen.